الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. نعم, the evils of music, the devil's voice and intention instrument. Imam Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Abu Bakr bin Ayub bin Qayyim al-Jawziyya, born 691 Hijriya and died 751 Hijriya, taken from delivering the afflicted from the plots of a shaitan. They have fallen deaf to the Quran. Abu Bakr Tartush said, and this group is in opposition to the community of the Muslims because they have made singing a matter of religion and obedience, and held that it should be done publicly in the places of prayer and congregational mosque, as well as the remaining noble lands and regions, and no one from this nation holds this opinion. I say, and from the greatest evils act is to enable them to establish this caste symbol in addition to its people in the Aqsa Mosque. In the Aqsa Mosque on the eve of Arafah. They also do it in Al-Khayf Mosque during the days of Mina. They also do it in Al-Khayf Mosque during the days of Mina, and they kick them out under the threat of beating and banishment of many occasions. And I have seen them do it in the Grand Mosque myself, with the people was circumambulating, performing tawaf. Then I summoned the party of Allah, and we disbanded them. And I saw them establish it at Arafat while the people were supplicating and beseeching Allah and invoking Him and clamoring for Allah. All the while, these people are engaged in this caste sama, accompanied by the real flute, yura, and daf, drum, and singing. So the acknowledgement from this group that this action constitutes sinfulness, violate the trustfulness of whoever supports them, and undermines his status in the religion. Another example was what some of the scholars have said, and this has been witnessed along with the actions in the following lines of poetry. Should we not say to them the statement of a sincere servant who seeks to advise? Should we not say to them the statement of a sincere servant who seeks to advise, and the right of advice that it should be heard? When we have the people being taught in our religion that singing is a sunnah that should be followed, and that a person should eat from the meat of the donkey and dance together in a group until he falls, and they say, we have been intoxicated by our love of Allah, but nothing has intoxicated these people but the vessels that they drank from. Like those animals, whenever they consume their fill, they dance due to what they have drunk, and because they are full and they are intoxicated by the fruit then by singing. And the Quranic chapter Yasin, if it were recited, it will not disrupt them, for I appeal to the intellect and the people of reason. Is there not one among you who will reject this religious innovation? Bida, they desecrate our mosque with the sama, and even the churches and synagogues are free from it. And he said elsewhere, and how wonderful were his words. The men have gone away and left the clamoring of low lives and scandals in their place. They claim that they are following their predecessors, but in reality their history is one of laziness. They wear tattered sheets and live as ascetics, like the asceticism of the Aqtab and the Abdal. They cut off the part of those who who are traveling, and obstruct the path of guidance with ignorance and misguidance. The outward appearance endures for a long time in the garment of religiousness, yet they hide their jealousy and contempt within themselves. If you are to say Allah says, His Messenger says, they will slander you just as the contemptuous, arrogant one would. Or if you said, certainly the companions or the earliest generations said, follow them in speech and action. Or if you said, the family, meaning the family of the chosen prophet, whom the prayers of Allah are upon, they are the best family. Or if you said, Shafi, Imam Ahmad, Abu Hanifa, and the High Imam Malik said, or if you said their supporters who succeeded them said, then each one and every one of them, the proponent of singing, possesses the like of some fantasy. And he responds by saying, my heart tells me from its most hidden secret, a sir, based upon the most private of my secret siri, from my state ahwali, due to my practice of adara, from my reflections and in introspection, fikra, due to my relaxiveness. Allahumma musta'an. Aina. Halwat from my station. Aywa. Halwat from my station as a witness. Shahidi from my source of inspiration. Waridi due to my spiritual state. Hali. Aina. Aywa. From the pure nature of my time. Safwi waqti. From the reality of my perspective. Hakika mashhadi. From the secret of my innermost self. Sirdati. From the impact of my deeds, sifatu fi ali, all of them are claims that if you investigated them, you will see that you created them as fabricated terms, as we concreted based upon impossibilities. They have abandoned what is true and the legislation, and have only applied what was apparent from ignorant people and above misguidance. They have made arguing a doorway, and words uttered mistakenly have become a means of going astray, and with their aggressive attacks have made them proud and arrogant. They have discarded the book of Allah behind their backs, like the traveler discards his excess food. They have made Sama the riding beast for their desires, and they have exaggerated and said that it involves every type of thing that's impossible. The supposedly obedience draws close to Allah. It is a sunnah in this. They have believed the sheikh who misguides Iblis. He is a sheikh or Iblis of the past who lured them in through plotting, and until they respond to the deceptive call, for him they forsook the Quran and the accounts and narrations. Since these things verified that they were upon misguidance, and they viewed that the Sama of poetry was more beneficial for the young person due to the 7 proofs for it that are recited over and over again by Allah. The enemy has not grabbed onto anything like it from the like of them, and the failure of their cosmic aspiration is set up robes for them, but they did not get snared by them. So then he brought in that comprehensive and elaborate trap. So then they were in the midst of the lion's den with ruined rewards, regions, and circumstances. They did not listen to anything but what they desire, preoccupied with it at the expense of all other activities, and they have been called to the right, but they turned away from it. Thus they were people who migrated to the left. They have fallen deaf to the Quran wherever they hear it, and they have become a people who are negligent. And if a reciter were to read for them a Quranic chapter and then let his recitation, it will then become his overburdening enemy, and the speaker among them will say, you took too long, well, it was not even 10 verses. So decrease it, since you are a person who is long-winded. All of this in addition to their dances, shouting and laughter with the proper etiquette and beautiful behavior. The reason that if Sama occurs amongst them, for it will they will lower their voice out of respect, and they will stretch out their necks and listen to the revelation of the Sheikh Iblis, whose statements are sung religiously. And those heads will move, and they will shake with glee and yearning to achieve a relationship wisal. So therein lie the various types of yearnings, ashwaq, inclinations, and stations, and ahwal, all of which are certainly unwelcome by Allah. If they were sober, they will see that what evil actions had affected them from the like of such vile actions. However, what has intoxicated them is the sama, which is more severe than the intoxication of alcohol, and this is the case without a doubt. But if they were to be combined together in a single soul once, it will produce in terms of loss the very limit of what could be lost. O nation that has played with the religion of its prophet, like the play of children in the mud, you have caused the people of the book to boast up over your religion since. You have caused the people of the book to boast over religion since. By Allah, even they are not pleased with these actions. How many of them will scoff at because of your faction, both private and public, and at every opportunity for debate they say to us, a religion in which the people worship through this sama, but this is an impossible religion. In fact, no legislation will come to permit this. So if they return to the legislation, it will suffice them of this question. If you claim deceitfulness, disobedience, and the beautification of the shaitan for the scoundrels, in order to distract others from the revelation of Allah and His religion, through all of this, the deceive plot of the one who schemes is realized, who used to be a witness that certainly the religion that had come with the truth was the religion of the messengers and not that of misguidance. By Allah, from amongst them, the people of the book, we have certainly had the statement with our own ears from their mouth. The consequence of that statement, which involves plots that abrogate the limit of the religion, result in breaking away from the religion. They have made it like the ragged garment. It is weaving, contains hole at the joint. Whatever you desire from scheming, plotting, conspiracies, and deception without listening, then you conspire to nullify every obligation and replace what has been prohibited by Allah with what has been deemed permissible. And you conspire against the oppressed, whom you make out to be oppressors, and for the oppressive tyrant you do the opposite of that, and you change and alter. So all of this is a maneuver to manipulate and wield influence. If you have understood what you have achieved with everything that you have pursued from the actions and statement, then you conspire in order to consume alcohol and call it by other than its names or use some ambiguous term. And you conspire to implement usury and yet avoid the ugliness of its name, and you conspire to refer to it by other names, and you conspire to make illicit sexual relations and do not say that this is zina, and thus claim to marry with a clear conscience, and you conspire to legalize contracts and nullify them after they have been enacted, although that presents many problems, except for the deceitful schema, since it's the doctor who remedies, how the schema is a trial for the good religious, and you conspire to nullify the endowment, wukuf, and make them free, and you are not sure about invalidating them. You ponder and consider, then explain afterwards. Then, if you are defeated, you still persist to remain stubborn and cause problems, and you conspire regarding the inheritance and move it from its rightful inheritors, and then usurp all of the world. Certainly, they have affirmed their ties of lineage and their right to be included among you until you can always assume possession of the inheritance of the world, and then you look to that testimony and make falsifying it your goal, since you have already acquired through falsification. So the matter of establishing who inherit involves affirmation and a type of negation that involves the unknown, and this is the heart of the problem. And you compare for the world of the orphan, since certainly it is an easy provision for someone in a position of weakness. You don't fear his whip or his sword, and the statement that matter is your statement regarding how his money is distributed, and you conspire to acquire the endowment wukuf, since they are vulnerable like the grazing animals of the negligent shepherd. So according to Abu Hanifa, his position is that the endowment are baseless to begin with, and so this does not require refutation. So the world is lost wealth, the possessors of which have passed away. So take from it without measure, and if this transmission was deemed correct by the ruling of a fair judge, then its condition have obviously disappeared. The people have nullified the conditions and neglected what was intended by them, so everyone is involved in the negligences. The perfect example of that is our judges and witnesses. Ask those who with experience about the situation. As for the witness, then they have departed from the path of justice in both speech and action, through fabrication, collusion, concealment, deception, and excessiveness due to accepting bravery. He forgets his testimony and vows that he has truly forgotten it while his heart is locked. But when he sees what was written, he says that now he has remembered it. What is the remainder? What is this remainder that has suddenly brought hope? And one of them says, "Will I enter the fire for an insignificant amount that will be crazy, make the scale heavy for me? Certainly, I am really subjecting myself to being placed into shackles." As for the judges, then it has been narrated numerous times from them what you have no doubt, what you have not heard, what you have no doubt heard. So, to respond with a remark, what do you say to the one who will say on the spot, "I have judged that you are a sinner or a disbeliever, and if you sought assistance, it will be given to you in the form of lashes that will be administered by them like the successive footstep." So he says, beat him, and you say, stop. Thus the two sentiments oppose one another. However, the sound of the flogging is what will be carried out. So, the most merciful has protected you from the beating, public humiliation, lies, and evil speech. These are ascribing all that to the religion of the messenger, and whatever that involves of shocking behaviors. Allah forbid that the messenger of Allah will judge according to the desires and ignorance that will be truly misguided judgment. And by Allah, if all of that were exposed to him, he will remove it all through rebuke and invalidation, except for whatever agreed with his judgment, since that is what we should meet with acceptance. His rulings are just, and all of them are correct, and they contain mercy, benefit, and greatness. All of the intellects of the creation have witnessed what his rulings contain in terms of correctness and completeness. So when his rulings come forth, you manipulated them according to the intellects that remove every restriction, to the extent that those who hear of his rulings say that nothing comes after this truth except misguidance. The rulings of the messenger are for Allah, and they are for him to administer justice among the servants, and their light shines for brightly. Such rulings among them on the earth are from the greatest forms of mercy, and the people are happy and accepting. Their rulings are administered perfectly, with precision, and containing this is the best situation for them, safety and honor, along with guidance and the mature show of mercy, as well as communication, love, and dignity. So their circumstances changed until they left with unrealized and stolen stations. So their actions changed and their circumstances evolved towards deficiency after experiencing completeness. Had the religion of Allah been truly established amongst them, you will certainly have seen them in the best of state. And whenever they applied in an unjust ruling, they ruled against anyone who denied it with every type of evil. They said, "Do you deny a ruling legislated by Muhammad? Allah forbid such a thing. For the noble and exalted legislation, the private part of the people and later worldly rights cry out to Allah in the mornings and evenings. How much will they work love through those baseless rulings that are not pleasing to our exalted Lord? And everyone is in the depths of the fires of hell, except the one who judges according to the religion of Allah without being influenced by bravery. Haven't you heard that the two thirds of them, the judges, will be in the fire tomorrow from the previous generations? As for this time of ours, then your Lord knows best if it contains that last third or not, or how the one who encroaches upon goodness request of his Lord to be delivered from it with the highest of hopes. Look at the guidance of the companions and those who followed their guidance from the previous generations, and follow the path of those people, such that wherever they perform ablution without water, tayammum, start from the right and not from the left. By Allah, they didn't choose for themselves anything but the path of guidance regarding sentiment and actions. They progress upon the melody of the messenger and his guidance, and they followed it in the rest of their situations. How blessed is such a companion! Ayna'am. Allahumma sallim sallim. For the student who desired guidance, so his destination on the day of resurrection will be their best destination. Ayna'am. They were obedient and humble towards their Lord, and spoke only with the most truthful speech. They abandoned every evil act and performed only the best action. Their desires are consistent with the religion of their prophet, while other than them, besides the companions, are the opposite of this disposition. Their religion will not be tarnished by defiancy, nor will their speech contain the straying of the ignorant and excessive. They acted upon what they knew, and they were not overzealous. As for that reason, their guidance was not restrained by misguidance. Others besides them are the opposite, to the extent that they have forsaken the guidance and called to misguidance. So their companions are proofs for the uncertain. Whoever follows their guidance should not fear misguidance. And they are the stars due to their guidance, brightness, lofty station, and inimitable position. They humbly walk amongst the people and speak with the truth, not the foolish ramblings of the ignorant. They are forbearing, knowledgeable, and God-fearing, humble, and prone to advising from the station of the most superior. They bring life to their nets through the obedience of their Lord, through recitation of the Quran, supplication and beseeching Him, and their eyes overflow with tears, like the falling of torrential rain at night. They are ascetics, and when they fight jihad against the enemies, they are the most courageous of combatants. And if the sign of competition become apparent, you will find them competing against one another with righteous deeds. Their faces bear the mark of prostration to their Lord, and with them the brilliance of His light spreads. And certainly the book Quran has clarified for you the characteristic in the chapter about the distinct magnificence concerning Al-Fatih, and also in the fourth of the 7 lengthy chapters in which they are described as people who are loved by humble people. And the Quranic chapters Bara and Al-Hashar also contain a description of them, and Al-Ata as well as Surah Al-Anfal.